Hi, this is Adele, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can be inspired by an artist and not copy their work, but just be inspired and have it influence your work. And I'll show you a quick tip. This is the painting that you're going to see how I create, inspired by Cy Twombly, who's an abstract artist. So please watch through the very end. And please push the button below to subscribe, because every Saturday morning I have great new videos and lots of fun things to teach you. So let's get started. Cy Twombly. He is one of my most favorite artists ever and inspires me to do all kinds of work. Details in my painting. So I'm going to take a look. Let's take a look. Look at the details here of the mark making that he does. I'm looking very carefully to get inspired. It inspires me, this black and white kind of scribble, but not scribble. I love the way on this page that he does the white lines over the dark. And then I'm going to show you this page. When we look into detail, it's kind of scribbles and mark making all over the page. He puts things on and scratches them out, but some are strong and some are very bold and subtle, both of them. And look at these. This is a close-up, which is a really fascinating thing to do. They're marks, they're dots, there's put down, take off. Let's see what else. All of this I'm thinking about before I get started on my Cy Twombly painting. This is where underpainting is very important. He underpainted in red and then went over in white and then scribbled on it, and the red showed through. Now this page, I love this half a page, and that's what I'm going to concentrate on. The white circles, he goes all the way to the edge on one. There's some very subtle and, again, combination and a variety of the subtle marks and the other marks. I always start with the background of dark kind of raw umber. And so I think when you use a neutral, you always, the white and the neutrals show up much better when you have a dark background. So what I'm doing right here is I'm mixing white. I'm going to do a basically neutral painting, which you just saw how inspired I was by Cy Twombly. He does have some that are very colorful, but I wanted to do one. In this, I'm going to show you how to do one that's neutral. And what looks like white is not always white. I mix white with yellow and red and blue. And before I show you how to mix those neutrals, I go along with just, this is a China marker going all over the paper. This is watercolor paper, which I have put tape on the edges. And even when I do these marks, I go off the page. It's just much more interesting that way. So take a look carefully at how I add little dashes of the yellow into the white. So it's very subtle. It's not a stark white. A stark white is very bluish and cool feeling. So this, adding a little yellow, you won't see it very much, but it will give an interest, and it will be like a warm white. So at first I put too much yellow, so I added a little bit more of the white. Now I'm going to cover up the whole page, just kind of using a paintbrush to smear it all around. It's not, it's a little bit transparent. You can see underneath the brown, which I think makes it has a lot more depth and is much more interesting. I've just put gloss medium to make the spread a little bit, the paint go a little bit easier. So I'm spreading it all around the paper, trying to just get it all over. Spreads a lot more easily with the little gloss, but I don't want to totally cover up everything, so I like seeing a little bit of the brown through. Now with the opposite side of the China marker, I'm just making marks. Kind of like when you saw the red underneath, this is the same thing, but you're seeing a little brown underneath, because brown was underneath mine, rather than Cy Twombly had the red underneath. Then I go over with some the brush to kind of over like hide some of the marks that I just made and let some show. Now I'm adding a little bit of red, just the tiniest bit of red. See that? A tiny bit of red. Not a lot. You don't want it to look pink, but you want it to just look like there are a variety of whites in here. And that's what makes it so a white or neutral painting much more interesting, because you've got what seems like white, but not white. Oh, here I put way too much red on it, so I'm gonna wash it off, probably wipe it off, because I don't want it to be pink, even though it would look great, but I still don't want it to look pink. Now I'm just going over it again. And I don't mind that you can see through it. I like that. You can see a little bit of the dark underneath. But you can decide if you want the whole thing covered with stark white, you can do that too. It's whatever makes you feel inspired and have fun. Now I'm doing the same thing. While the paint is wet on top is the only time you can see what's underneath. If the paint has dried, the top layer, you wouldn't be able to see what's underneath. So you've got to do it fairly quickly. And again, I scratch through, because some of Cy Twombly's things to me look like they're just scratches. So I scratch through, and then I'll probably just, here I go, just take some off, lightly, very lightly. You have to know when to do light brush strokes and heavy brush strokes. And you learn this by just playing and experimenting. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to paint some of the marks with a gray. So I've added a little bit of white to the black, and I'm going to paint with a very fine paintbrush. And I'm adding a little bit of gloss gel to it so it moves more smoothly on the paper. And you want to think as you're creating, painting, and even when you're just scribbling and playing and learning new things, you want to always think in threes. You want to think 3 marks around the paper. Oh, now I'm writing, and I, twist the pen as I'm doing it. Okay, so thinking in threes, you want large shapes, small shapes, light colors, medium colors, dark colors. All the variety, that's the most important thing in making a painting successful. So this is the second way. I drew lines in the beginning when the paint was wet with the opposite end of a paintbrush. And now I'm doing it straight on with a very fine paintbrush, a very thin one with the gray, and now I'm going to do it with white. So again, you get a whole variety of colors, which makes it much more interesting. Oh, before I do that, I have to wipe some of it off. I like to put things on. Part of my style is I put paint on and then I take it off. So I think part of it, I wanted to give a little bit of texture there. As I use a paintbrush, I like to twist it. It just gives more variety. And then, because I know everything has been really thin on there, thinking of being different and having different textures and different mark makings, I put a straight paint right on it, which is going to make it thick and it's going to make it more interesting. So you've got thin paint, thick paint, variety of colors. Even though this is a neutral painting, basically a black, white, gray, and the raw umber that is underneath, it's still full of color. You can see how even the whites are, each white, very little that I've gone on this painting have I gone straight white. Here I'm adding a little bit of blue to the white, so I've got white with the, started with the white with the yellow, then white with the red, and now white with the blue. It's very subtle, but it just gives it a little bit of interest. And again, all doing this, being inspired by Cy Twombly. He did a lot of mark making and scribbles, or that's what I was thinking about, with black, with white, and yet this is my own style. This is my style, based on what inspired me from him. I also go over, because I like to cover up, just like Cy Twombly did, but I happen to do this in all my work, is I go over some of the marks, especially the dark ones, or maybe the blue ones, the ones that stand out. It kind of pushes them back, so you have a real push, colors that come forward and colors that go backward, which gives the painting a lot more depth. Now I'm drawing with lines with my China marker. So again, another type of line. And this time the paint has dried, so you're seeing the black marks from the China marker. So there's a lot of variety of different line work in here. And now I'm going to, this is one of my favorite parts, when I pull the tape off and I can actually see exactly what the painting looks like. You have to be careful if you have paint all over your hands not to get it all on the white edge, because that would really be tough. And as I pull this paint, I pull it away from the painting, low and away, very slowly. Otherwise it could tear the paper. And as it comes off, I'm really liking what I'm seeing. This could be a finished painting. This could be an inspiration for a whole series. This could be just 1 in 5 I'm going to do that day to try the marks that inspired me from looking at the Cy Twombly book. So I hope you've enjoyed this and learned from it. And I certainly had a lot of fun. That's the finished piece. Now for the signature.